We're live.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday afternoon, 12 Eastern here in Boston. I guess it's 11 o'clock for you, John, right now.
11 o'clock.
But super excited today. And I know it's a little bit spontaneous for a lot of folks out there that might not have known that John and I are having a ideally weekly conversation. Today, we're going to be talking about travel and the coronavirus for those in the Live and Travel group, because we're actually broadcasting live in two different groups right now because the famous John Rankin is smart enough to find an amazing software program that can actually go live in two different groups at the same time. So we're live right now in Live and Travel, where John and myself are admins. John runs the majority of the show over there. I'd say even more than the majority of the show over there. While I'm an admin, as well as John, inside of the Travel Secrets VIPs group. So really the purpose of today's conversation, as I said, and as you can probably see from the graphic below John and I, is talk about travel and the coronavirus and really just ping John's brain in terms of really things that are happening and really the world at large. So first off, John, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks. Just one real kind of admin note. If you guys look at the top of the post, it says if you want your name and your comments to be seen as far as who's actually commenting, to follow that little link, and it just syncs up with your Facebook so we can see who you are. So there's a couple of people tuning in. So as you guys tune in, just do that so we can see who you are.
Yeah. So how about we start off this way, John? How about for those in my group that may have no idea who you are, why don't you tell a little bit about your story, and I'll do the exact same thing because I'm sure there are tons of people in Live and Travel. They're like, who's this incredibly handsome, cleanly shaven? I just shaved like 10 minutes ago, so I could look really clean and got in the shower. Right. So I could look completely pristine for all of the audiences watching this right now. And I can share the story of this orange sweatshirt handsome man as well. Once you do, once you go ahead.
Yeah. So so for the last 20 years, I've trained the military in hand-to-hand combat, how they integrate hand-to-hand combat with what they do mission-wise with shooting and all that good stuff. And it was about 3.5 years ago now, I realized with the changing of the political landscape that there was a real chance there I wouldn't have a job after too much longer. And I thought to myself, I don't have an exit strategy. I've become so singularly qualified at a high level that there's not really a ton of other opportunities out there for me in the kind of, 9-to-5 world. And I thought, what would I do? And I set out on a journey to do the same thing I did that made me the fight guy for the military, which was, what do I love to do? And what I love to do more than anything else is travel. And I thought, how could I monetize travel? How could I make money? And I really started to dig into it and saw that travel was an $8 trillion industry per year. And then I looked at travel agents because that's where most people in their mindset go, and realized that an average travel agent makes less than 20 grand a year. And I got custody of 4 kids. 20 grand ain't buying toilet paper, let alone, to live on. So as I kind of evaluated all that stuff, I realized that I was going to need to do in travel what I did in the military, which was I was going to have to create wealth from nothing. And that's where I'm at. And so over the last 3.5 years, I've taken over 50 vacations now. I've been to 29 different countries. And as I looked at travel, I thought to myself, what's the number one problem that people are having with travel? And we both know the answer to that, and that was flights. So I really went out above and beyond and out of my way to figure out a way to save people money on flights, to really dig in and to figure out what that looked like. And hence, we've got people that are flying around the world for, under $500. It's been an amazing journey. So now, why don't you and then I guess what we'll do is after you introduce yourself, we'll kind of come back and do a little like how we met each other.
Yeah, that's perfect. Why don't you also, in case folks don't know, why don't you make a quick graphic, or if you can, I don't even know, this is the first time using this program, but a quick graphic so that people know to click that link automatically, maybe, because we just saw a comment come in, want to make sure that we actually know who's speaking, because conversations tend to be a little bit better, would you say, John, when you actually know who's on the other side of the table? So John's going to make a quick graphic, and thank you for doing that, John. This is the first time, again, that I'm using this program. It looks really cool. Quick background on me. So funny enough, I went to the University of Miami down in Florida, and John and I were just talking about this right before we went live today. So I went to school for broadcast journalism. So this is just bringing me back, seeing like these graphics on the screen and like somebody just saying, "Hey, John," a second ago. So my name is Cory. Originally from the Boston, Massachusetts area. Grew up outside of Boston in a tiny town called Andover, which some of you may be familiar with. Most probably are not. But I grew up here in New England, and for most of my life, I was just doing exactly what my parents always told me to do, which was go to school, get good grades, go to college, graduate, and then go get a good paying job and sustain yourself and have fun for the rest of your life. And I had a moment happen in the summer right before my senior year of college where I had an opportunity to join somebody's startup during the summertime. And I just fell in love with that idea of working for myself and freedom and just wanting to do whatever I want to do when I want to do it with whoever I want to do it whenever I want. And that was 10 years ago. And since then, I've started and failed at so many different things. I started an app company out of college. I ran an Instagram agency. I was running what they call like affiliate offers, like pretty much selling other people's products in exchange for a fee when you actually do sell it. But then it wasn't until a trip that I had when I was working for somebody else where I went to Lisbon, Portugal for free after winning a contest. And it absolutely changed the whole course of my life in terms of my attitude towards travel. And I learned that day that, holy smokes, this is so cool. I'm here with my best friend because I got to bring a +1, 200 other people from the company. Oh my God, like that itch that they talk about in terms of like just getting out of the country and going and seeing things. It really just started that off for me. And that was 3 years ago. So with all these activities and jobs and things that I've been doing in startup land and had never really found much success, I realized that travel really was my passion. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go see more places. And like you said, John, like figure out a way to be able to make money while doing it, to be able to actually withstand that type of lifestyle.
Yep.
So it wasn't until I started my own Facebook group, which is Travel Secrets VIPs, which many folks might be listening to this on replay. Some might be jumping in live, but was able to grow my group to over 10,000 people in less than 3 months with the help of everybody that was one of the OGs, like I like to call them, inside of my group, that really helped grow it to a crazy amount. Just people that want to travel more and see more of the world. And I guess this is a good segue, John, into like how we met. John and I, because we're so surrounded with marketing and business and startups and all that, we got connected because John saw a post that I made inside of another mutual marketing group and was like, "Hey man, how did you grow your travel group so fast? Because I also have a travel group and I want to know what you're doing." And that just started an amazing friendship because, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, anybody that you meet online initially, what do you initially think? You're like, who's this person? What do they want from me? Do they just want to make money from me? Like, who are they? But John was very different. John like just genuinely wanted to understand like what I was doing and develop a real friendship with me. And then since then, we've gone into business together. We became awesome friends, obviously. And this was only like 6 or 7 months ago. So it's amazing like what the internet can really do in terms of not just, growing your network personally, but growing your business and growing your connections, that you can literally say, I trust the hell out of this person. I know that they have my best interests at heart and they're not trying to take advantage. And I mean, plus we were both in the travel space, and this guy knows so much about travel hacking and finding cheap flights, hotels. And today specifically, we'll jump into this shortly, of just understanding what's going on in the travel space, especially with what's going on with the coronavirus and all the craziness there. So really just would have been silly of me, John, not to be friends with you, given what you know about travel, man.
Yeah, especially now, and this is devastating the travel industry and the travelers. So it's unique in that, I mean, it's really hurting everybody. A lot of times when the travel industry goes through things, they're okay and we're not. And this time around, it's both of us. So
Right.
It's both the consumer as well as the corporate structure.
So let's talk a little bit about both of those sides. So obviously most of us in our groups, we're consumers, and that's a good thing, right? Because we want to be able to go travel with our family, with our friends, create amazing memories, share pictures, and just things that we've done. I'm a consumer, you're a consumer, we're all consumers.
Yep.
So let's start off with everything that's going on in consumer land for all of us out there that just love to travel, and coronavirus, things that you're hearing, because that's what we want to make these conversations be, right? Just for everybody that's listening, just updates, almost like our own like news channel, so to speak, of things that are going on in the travel verse. So let's start off on the consumer side of things, and the things that you've been reading and the things that you're aware of, and how that's been affected right now with coronavirus in just the travel space at large.
So the big thing and the most obvious thing is that everybody's itineraries have pretty much been canceled from early March, and right now it's looking like until the end of July timeframe. Now you can still fly, but the volatility of the travel industry has made it to where it's probably not a good idea unless you're being required to. So I was supposed to be in Iceland with 15 people from my group in March. That entire trip was canceled. Everything about that trip was canceled. And it wasn't even canceled necessarily by us, but by the travel ban of the United States. That travel ban right now, they're looking at extending until June. The rumor mill is that it will probably last until August. The military is looking at extending it until October. So what that means is that travel prices right now are rock bottom low, even for later this year. I was just looking at some flights for later this year, and they were $60 a piece for a direct flight all the way out to California. Another set to Vegas for $80, right? So if you can, and when we're talking about prices like that, just go ahead and buy them, because if this stuff lasts past then, it's $80, right? It's not a big deal. Where you want to be careful is when the ban comes off and people can go back to traveling, that price will go from 80 to 500. Because everybody in the country is going to want to go somewhere.
Right.
Many of us have been stuck at stay-at-home orders for 3, 4, and 5 weeks now. And one of the common themes I'm seeing across my Facebook and in conversations is, I can't wait till this is over and I'm going to go do X, Y, Z.
Yeah. Right? Let's talk about that. And
sure.
Don't mind me just jumping in real quick. So what are you, I love how you're, is that one of your kids? Just
one of my kids.
I love that. Hey, he can get a cameo. He can come in whenever he wants.
I'm the best one of the children, so.
There you go.
You fix the green screen when you leave.
Love that. So let's talk a little bit about, because I love the fact that you brought up the whole idea, because we're all familiar, if we're actually looking for flights right now, like you can tell just in like a really quick search that, hey, like flights are obviously going to be super cheap. Let's go a little bit deeper on, let's say that I'm sure there's a lot of us out there that are in that exact same mindset, right? I'm there too. I want to go somewhere. I can't wait for this to be over. I have all these different bucket list places that I want to go and visit. I don't know, because like you said, they don't know how long the travel ban is going to last. It sounds like they're going to be kicking it out even further. But let's just say that there are many folks out there that want to purchase tickets. Maybe they want to take advantage of the fact that flights are so cheap. What is something like, what sort of time frame should they really be looking at? Is there certain insurance or cancellation policies or just things that we need to be looking for to make sure that if we do want to take advantage, it's like the stock market, right? Obviously, when the stocks, as we've seen, so many have gone down, they're eventually going to come back up over time. But it's the exact same thing, it sounds like, with airplane tickets. So how can we take advantage of that if we do have some disposable income that we want to use on future travel?
So the first thing is that you always, when possible, we want to avoid peak season. All right. Peak season in the United States runs from mid to late May through mid-August. Traditionally speaking, that's the absolute most expensive time of the year to travel anyway. Right now, those tickets are low, even for the seasonally because of the coronavirus. Right now, I am suggesting, hey, you're on camera, so
what's up, little man?
So when you're looking at that, what we want to do is we want to plan travel for late August, October, fall break, right? And even Christmas tickets right now are pretty cheap. I was just looking for somebody the other day, and they were talking about, we want to go here, Punta Cana. And I looked at the plane tickets, which for Punta Cana are normally pretty expensive for Christmas, and they were pretty reasonable. I had another girl. I'm not sure if she's going to actually take the trip now with everything going on. But when we initially looked at the plane tickets, they were over $900 a piece. They're now under $300.
Yeah.
So you want to look at towards the end of summer into that August time frame, and if it lasts past that, it depends on the price of the ticket. So the big shock to everybody, including myself, was that the travel insurance industry went the route with that Corona was something that was foreseeable. Therefore, they did not cover it. So if you bought plane tickets after, I think it was January 29th, when President Trump put the ban on going to China. So if you bought your tickets after that, they put a ban on it, or they were refusing to refund.
Yeah, which is absolutely outrageous. Like, how can you possibly know? Which is a whole other topic, but like, how can you possibly know that it was that sort of impact was coming? Yeah,
there's no way. And so what actually happened though was the Senate got involved. The Senate had a hearing, or not the Senate, sorry, the Department of Transportation did a hearing with one of the other government entities. They ruled that the travel insurance industry must refund, if it meets these parameters. And I've got an article in my group about it. You guys can go read it. Now, people are still not getting their refunds yet, and here's why. On any given day, there's over 5 million people flying in the United States. Over 5 million. So all these flights were canceled, rebooked, rerouted. Like the travel industry at large is under this enormous surge that's now 6 weeks. So it takes 6 weeks time for 5 million. And we're talking, 60 million people are waiting on refunds. I'm waiting on refunds. Right. And so you have to be patient. I'm in a queue to file for another airline ticket. I haven't even filed yet because they're so overwhelmed that they put me in a queue to talk to somebody to get everything canceled and taken care of.
Right.
It's unprecedented, you know? So, and I think, you know, when you look at what's happening, everybody's like, well, the airline industry is getting, you know, $50 billion of a bailout. Well, that's actually not true. So the travel industry is getting a portion, and then it has to be divvied out to all the different like hotels, airlines, etc. So they're hurting too. Like they have no capital, they have no inflow of money, and they're laying people off. I have plenty of flight attendants, flight assistants in my group, and they're not working until June. I've heard from several of them.
Yeah.
They're not back to work till June.
Do you see, because we've obviously seen this happen outside of the coronavirus situation, but we've seen airlines obviously go bankrupt. Some of the lower priced airlines, especially over in Europe and elsewhere. How does this impact? Like, do you envision a day when a large airline like an American or United will go bankrupt because of something like this? Or do you think it's mainly some of those like lower price, more no name ish airlines that we might not be as familiar with?
I'm going to frame this with this comment. So I haven't heard anything about the airlines yet, as far as like it being that severe. However, I have read articles from investors that Amazon is potentially in a position to buy Disney. Disney is losing, I forget what the number was, but it was billions.
So what does that mean exactly for those that might not?
If Disney is on the chopping block in the rumor mill, like it's rumor, I mean, I don't know if it's true, but let's just think about this. Disney is larger than any airline. I promise you that. They make more money than any airline.
Yeah.
And if Disney is being rumored to be in a position to sell to Amazon, my hunch would be that airlines are in trouble too. So now I haven't heard anything. I know that Delta stock is at a quarter of the price it was 3 months ago.
Right.
So these are indicators. And if you do play the stock market, now's a great time to buy Delta.
For sure.
I haven't seen prices that low on Delta in forever. You know?
Spend an hour, go find the top 500, not even the top 500. Go look at the top 100 stocks, just historically over the past like 5 years. And if you are in a position, go for it. Anything related to travel, 100%.
Well, Disney was just
Disney.
6 weeks ago. Disney was at like 150 a share.
Yeah.
And they got down into the low 80s. I mean, so when we look at the ramifications of this virus and what it's doing to the travel industry, and I've seen several people pop in and out here that I know for a fact that their travel plans were impacted. Understand that it's not just impacting us as consumers, it's impacting an $8 trillion industry, and it's devastating that industry. So now I'm with you. The travel insurance agents industry has always rubbed me wrong, and airlines have rubbed me wrong, which is why I love finding ways to cut that ticket price to like next to nothing, so I can kind of politely give them the bird.
Yeah, you're a freak, dude.
Because it brings me great joy when I flew my buddy to Iceland for $150, knowing that the airline industry didn't get $750 out of him.
Right.
So, I don't want them to go away, because then I don't get to see the rest of the world. So,
of course,
it's a love-hate relationship.
Yeah, and like you and I were in the midst, as you said, you had a trip to Iceland that you had planned, and several more that were planned throughout the year. And just candidly, again, just going back to the story of John and I mean, I've run 2 group trips from folks in our Travel Secrets VIPs travel family, like we like to call ourselves. And we had a trip to San Diego earlier in March, like first weekend in March. And that was just when all this coronavirus and everything was just starting to pick up speed. But it was just so odd, right? Because at that time, like there was no travel ban, and like everybody knew what was happening and what was going on. But like I was that guy with my Lysol wipes, like on the plane, just like doing my thing. But it's just I guess it's just such a strange concept because I mean I can hear a plane flying right now outside of my window, but when you like outside and you still see planes flying, it's almost like I had a moment. Yeah, I had a moment the other day where I was like, "They're still flying planes."
Yeah, they've got to fly the routes. The pilots have to fly because of the certification process with the flight industry. So the pilots have to fly whether there's anybody on them or not. I have pictures
because I'm not even familiar with that.
Yeah, so I should tag her in this, but so pilots have to fly so many hours in order to maintain their certification to continue flying.
Yeah.
So if all of a sudden all the flights stopped, then who's going to fly when this is over? Right. So the pilots have to continue flight. And I'm not even exaggerating. I probably have 20 pictures on my phone that my friends have sent me of their flight where they were legitimately the only one on the flight.
Yep. I've seen those on Facebook too. It's so,
I mean,
and then you get going back to like the plane, like just like the plane industry in general. Then it's like you have one person on a flight going somewhere. And I mean, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. You can easily just like, Rachel Ellis. Yes. We want to go to Disney World when this is lifted. Can we come with you? Can John and I come? Because I'm down.
At this point, I don't care where I go.
I'll throw on my Mickey Mouse ears. Like I'll just run around like a kid. I'd love it.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to me that you combine the fact that a pilot still has to fly.
Yep.
The plane is still taking off and landing somewhere.
Mandatory maintenance for the plane.
You can see that. Like, you can see why like stock prices for like Delta and everybody are absolutely drowning because hardly anybody is flying. My roommate, so he had a pretty tragic thing happen recently where he lost his grandmother, so he had to fly to Philadelphia, and he was telling me, I mean, he was like one of 5 people maybe on the flight, and the entire airport was pretty much vacant. It was all just like, the flight attendants and just people who worked at the airport for the airline. And you're like, because I thought it was weird, like the first weekend of March when, I was just starting to see people with masks on, not as many people as you see today walking outside, of course. But it had like that eerie, weird feeling. And I could only imagine, like, I'm one of 5 people on a giant plane going somewhere, and it's mainly just workers, right?
Yeah. And every time they take that flight, they have to do the mandatory maintenance call. The plane has to be evaluated. All that stuff has to continue to happen so that when this is over, that they can continue to service people.
Right.
So they're in a really tough position. And, I know 50 billion to a consumer is an incredible amount of money, but when you look at the number of airlines, the number of employees, the airports themselves, 50 billion is not going to go far.
Right.
I mean, 50 billion, that's not even a percent of the $8 trillion industry. You know what I mean? So
there's so many underlying costs. I remember I watched a video on YouTube like a month or 2 ago, and I shared it in the Travel Secrets VIPs group that I'm an admin in, and that there's so many things that we're just not even aware of that the planes, like these companies, have to pay for. There's like a rental fee. I didn't even realize there's like a rental fee at
the airport.
Every single airport in the world, there's a rental fee that an airplane company has to pay, as if we're like living in our homes, paying our mortgages, living in an apartment. Rental fee, the gas, the employees, like you said, there's the food, the drinks, like there's all these things that eventually add up. So imagine, I mean, you're paying for all these positions at the airport, and no one's flying.
And no one's flying. Yeah. And there's even more than that. They have to pay for their licensure through the federal FAA. They have, so there's all this other stuff that goes into it on top of paying rent, on top of paying maintenance, on top of paying employees, on top of trying to pay the CEO. I mean, it's an absolutely enormous burden on them.
Right.
And I mean, I just couldn't even imagine. In 20 years, 30 years from now, we're going to look back at the ramifications of this last 8 weeks and be like, holy cow. I was just listening to a guy from Hilton Hotels, saying that in 2001, after 9/11, it took them almost 3 years to financially recover from 9/11. When the market crashed in 2008, it took them almost 7 years to recover. Okay?
Wow.
They are predicting, the hotel industry is predicting that this could take the better part of 10 to 15 years for the travel industry to completely recover.
So that's fascinating to me, because I would think, and I want to hear your take on this. You got Airbnb, you got the Verbos, you got all those of the world, and then you have hotels, right? Yep. And it's cool that over the past, whatever years that those have existed, HomeAway also,
Yep.
that these live inside of people's homes, like that whole concept became super popular. So I'm curious to hear your take, because I have my own opinion, but how, like, who do you feel is going to be better off because of this? Because like the hotel industry, as well as like the Airbnbs of the world, they can take completely different courses. Obviously, they're both going to involve cleanliness to some degree, but who makes out better? Does one make out better? And is one going to be totally destroyed for years to come because of it?
Yeah, I think the major hotel chains, Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, they'll be fine. It's going to hurt them, but they're not going to go bankrupt. I think that Airbnb will suffer more than the main hotels, but I don't think they'll go bankrupt. HomeAway.
Why is that? Just from your own perspective?
Because I've already heard people say they don't know if people are cleaning.
Right.
Right. And you and I have, between the two of us, 30,000 people in our network. And if we're hearing it at that small of a scale, I mean, it's a large scale for people like us. But when you look at the travel industry, 30,000 people is a drop in not even a day's bucket of people that are doing this.
Right.
It's such a small percentage, right? So if you and I are already hearing this concern echoed, I promise you on a global scale, it's petrifying.
Yeah.
So I think that Airbnb has enough capital that they'll be fine. I would not be surprised if an Amazon or somebody comes along and scoops them up, because I think that they'll make it. But I bet you if you looked at their portfolio, it's really hurting.
Yeah.
But I think that the hotel industry at large will fare better than Airbnb, VRBO, HomeAway. Those kind of things.
I agree, especially when you add the brand name on top of it, and every major hotel chain out there. I mean, we stayed at a Marriott hotel when we went out to San Diego for our group trip in March. So I'm getting emails from Marriott, from the CEO, and you can only imagine. I mean, you said that might take 10 to 15 years, which is just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, just think about this. I've stayed at Airbnbs. I prefer Airbnb. I have a referrers account for Airbnb, and I haven't gotten an email from them, not one.
Yeah, right. That's crazy.
So I prefer Airbnb. So I don't wish harm on them, because I want them to make it. I prefer the Airbnb to a hotel.
Yeah.
But when you look at the ramifications of it, the bottom line is I don't know if Cory's going to clean his toilet.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, I know at the hotels, they've got workers that are coming in and Lysol and wiping everything down.
Right.
And we know, so there was a report done about the cruise industry. They got everybody off the ship. They were corona positive from the last day on that ship till they found no corona was 17 days. I mean, so in an Airbnb, if that thing's not taken care of, bro, like 17 days is a lifetime in the travel industry.
Right.
So it's 3 days on plastic, I think, 2 days on steel. I mean, so there's all these different things happening. I just think that Airbnb is not going to do as well through this crisis as like hotels. And I actually have a video of a hotel boutique chain in California selling because they can't stay afloat.
Right. It's I guess it's all fascinating. It's all fascinating, number one, just to see what's happening out there in the world. Number two, it's devastating on lots of levels to us personally, to those listening, families that are affected by this, folks that are losing their jobs. They have amazing travel plans. I know a couple of people in my group personally that had incredible trips that they had coming up with their family that are just not happening anymore. And it saddens me, but it's just so, I guess the reason why I started off with fascinating is because I mentioned my story a little bit. I've just been in startup, entrepreneurial land for the last 10 years, just did marketing, advertising, and sales. And when I see as just the economy almost like turning over, and you think about travel, I mean, the coolest thing about travel, and one of the main reasons I'm sure, John, you'd agree that both you and I are in travel, aside from just our passion, is that 99% of people out there love to travel and want to get away and go do things outside of the norm of just normal daily life, all the time, right? We all do it. So to be able to see all of a sudden just like travel completely flip itself on its head. And I mean, John and I are both impacted by this. We have 3 different businesses involving travel that are all just on pause. We can't be running our group trips. Most folks aren't buying airfare right now. And so there's a lot of programs that we have that are literally just stopped. And that's why it sucks, number one, because we can't provide value in those sort of ways that we're just so passionate about, which is going and traveling with other people that want to go see the world and create memories that last a lifetime, forever, that they'll tell their kids, grandkids, everyone about. But it's just fascinating to me to just watch the economy just flip itself and go through something that, I mean, in 2008, I was 18. So like, I still like mentally, like I was kind of like, I don't really understand things that are going on in the economy because I'm just not wise enough at that age to just know how all this impacts things. So I guess this is more of like a statement as opposed to a question that, at least like to me, I do get a lot of, I get a lot of excitement because I do know that there's a huge opportunity out there for folks that, yes, the majority of people will say this is terrible, this is awful. But for those that really can see a positive light from this somehow, and I'm coming from the position of what I just said, I have 3 businesses that are just completely on pause right now that are creating no value for anybody. And I just hate that because that's what I'm all about. And then figuring out ways to really use those creative juices to make things better, regardless of the flipped economy.
Yep. So let me just say this though. And I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds on it, but I want to show this as an example. There's a very stark difference between the way the wealthy think and the way that the poor think. When crisis happens, the wealthy don't abandon the market. They go deeper. Okay. So I just read the other day that Warren Buffett took, I don't remember if it was 20 million or 20 billion or what it was. It was some insane
same thing to that guy.
Yeah. And he dumped it into Delta.
Yeah.
And here's why I bring this up. Warren Buffett is an amazing investor. I've done classes with his students. That guy doesn't invest on losing stocks. He invests on a stock that is at half price or lower that's going to go back up. That's what he's done his entire career. His track record is impeccable, right? And here's the point of it. Travel is going to recover. It's going to be in a good place, whether that's a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever the time frame is. But we are at a unique position in our lives where you can capitalize on this crisis, not only personally, but financially. Personally, in that you can begin to look at trips for next year and get them at bottom dollar prices. Like legitimately, we're talking 60, 70, 80% off the cost. $60 to fly to Vegas nonstop. What? Like, I've never seen that, right? I mean, you might see $60 for a one-way, but not a round trip. $30 to go to California right now. And I'm talking stuff that's in the summer. I'm not talking about flying during the crisis. I'm talking about flying when they're projecting the crisis is going to be over. I just saw a hotel in the DR that's normally $3,000 for a week for $1,000.
That's because you're an
yeah, it was not me, it's the industry.
No, I know.
The industry at large. So I want to encourage everybody that's listening, don't approach future travel with a spirit of fear, because prices are so low now that even if this does last into those time frames, it's $60, it's $70, it's $100, whatever. Buy it and go, right? And if this lasts when you purchase those tickets for, then it's not a big deal. It's $80, it's $100, it's $500, whatever, right? The cost now is so low that you could really take 5 vacations next year for the cost of one before Corona. Okay. The second thing is on a business level, now is the time to either launch your own travel business, to invest in stock and in companies, and to be creative and start to look at solutions for problems that are going to crop up because of this virus. Maybe you could start an Airbnb cleaning business, like there's ways for you to get involved that would make you money when this correction takes place. I've been telling people, I have multiple travel agents in my group, and they're like, oh my God, like all their checks are gone, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm saying now's the time to double down on your travel business. Because if people don't know that you're the travel expert, you're the travel agent, you're the travel entrepreneur, when this is all over and they all begin to travel, they're not going to come to you. They're going to go to Expedia. They're going to go to Priceline. They're going to go to, whatever. If you take and you market now and you invest heavy now and you push heavy now, when the travel industry opens back up in, let's say, July, for 3, 4, or 5 months, everybody's going to be hearing that you were the travel person. So when they can travel, you're the person they're going to come to.
That's it. I mean, it's exactly what we're doing right now. And it's something that I'm a super huge advocate of. I personally don't do it as much as I should, but what John and I are doing, just being on camera, and not everybody needs to be on camera, right? It's better if you are, just right, because people can understand and see you, hear your voice, understand your personality and tone. But if you like to write, if you like to create videos, if you like pictures, like whatever it is, do it. Like it's the time to be able to brand yourself in the way that you want to brand yourself. And there's a lot of different ways to do it, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, YouTube, whatever.
Think about travel photography right now, just because you brought it up. Like you could go anywhere in the world for next to nothing, get shots with nobody in them, like whenever you wanted, and get the most amazing, pristine pictures, and literally set that up to when this is all over. People are coming to your photography because they see. Because you're not going to have any outside influences right now. Right. I mean, and the truth is that it's safe to travel. the travel ban, you can travel inside the domestic, US, and you can take precautions to be safe, right? So as long as you're not immune compromised or you're older or really young, you can still be active and get things done with a short flight, maybe. I just took my kids to a waterfall. There was nobody out there. Nobody. Social distancing to the extreme.
Yeah.
So if you're in the photography world, now's a great time, I think. I don't know.
Agreed. I mean, whatever, however you can display your craft, and to your point, John, like it's just a matter of doing it, putting yourself out there, taking the right precautions, and just making sure that you do the right thing. So, John, I feel like this was a pretty good first little episode here of talking about travel and Corona, and I mean, in my mind, would love to do these more often. If everybody else got value from this, I hope that you did, because John is just full of a wealth of knowledge when it comes to travel and flights and all that fun stuff. So
yeah, drop your questions. I mean, we'll see this feed for quite some time. So if you guys have questions that we didn't get to, maybe we can schedule some other lives where people can come in and ask questions, where we can actually address their concerns. So as you guys are watching the replay, drop some questions.
Yeah, I love that idea.
All right, man.
Well, John, thank you for the time. We've been talking about this for a long time. I'm glad that you and I got on this and trying out this new software called StreamYard. Yeah. So thanks for setting all this up, man. And thank you to everybody for hopping in today. Everybody in the Live and Travel group, in Travel Secrets, VIPs, you're all amazing. And just keep your head up. And we're going to keep coming back with more. As John said, it's an incredible idea just to ask questions that you all have, so that when we jump on these, we really are providing as much value as we possibly can, because that's what we're here to do. John and I are both travel people, and some know a little bit more about the travel hacks than others, like this guy on the other side of the camera that I personally learn from every single day, and I'm very grateful for that. But we're here to serve you. And so I know this video today was a little bit more spontaneous, but as we go forward, we'll make sure that we have ideally at least like a dozen or so questions from folks so that we can have a really productive, even more productive conversation that's pointed toward people's specific problems. So thank you, everybody. I love you all. Thank you, Mr. John.